For nearly 1,000 years, the samurai were untouchable. Master swordsmen, disciplined from childhood, feared across Japan. Their skill with a blade wasn't just combat training, it was a way of life, built over centuries of tradition, ritual, and rigid social hierarchy. A samurai's sword wasn't just a weapon, it was considered an extension of their soul, passed down through generations, treated with a level of reverence few objects in history have ever matched. Then, in 1543, a single Portuguese ship washed ashore on a small Japanese island, and everything the samurai had built their world around started to unravel. Not overnight, not in one battle, but the countdown had begun.
The ship wasn't looking for war. It was a trading vessel, blown off course during a storm that landed on the island of Nagashino. On board, Portuguese merchants carrying something Japan had never seen before, the matchlock arquebus, an early firearm that used a slow-burning cord to ignite gunpowder and fire a lead ball. A local lord was fascinated. He purchased 2 of the guns for what historians describe as an extraordinary price, then ordered his swordsmiths to copy them. But they weren't simply copying a weapon. They had to reverse engineer unfamiliar metallurgy, spring mechanisms, and firing systems from only 2 examples. Within a year, they succeeded. Within a decade, thousands of matchlocks, known as Tanegashima, were being produced across Japan. Japan didn't just adopt the gun, it turned a shipwreck into a weapons revolution.
Here's what surprises most people. The samurai didn't see guns as an immediate threat. For years, firearms were simply another tool, useful in certain battles, but never a replacement for swordsmanship or honor. And honestly, early guns had serious problems. They were loud, slow to reload, sometimes taking 20 seconds between shots. Their accuracy wasn't impressive, and a gunner caught reloading was dangerously exposed. A skilled swordsman could still close the distance, so for decades, the gun wasn't a revolution. It was just another weapon, until someone solved its biggest weakness.
In 1575, at the Battle of Nagashino, one warlord changed everything. Thousands of gunners stood behind wooden barricades. Instead of firing all at once, they fired in rotating rows. One line fired. The next stepped forward while the first reloaded. Again and again, the reload gap simply disappeared. Then came the charge. Legendary samurai cavalry, some of the finest mounted warriors in Japan. They rode directly toward the gun line, straight into a wall of continuous gunfire. The charge that had decided battles for generations collapsed before it reached its target. Nagashino didn't just prove guns worked, it proved disciplined firearm tactics could overcome centuries of elite swordsmanship.
You'd expect the sword to disappear immediately. It didn't. Japan entered centuries of peace under the Tokugawa shogunate. Instead of replacing swords completely, firearms became tightly controlled. Some historians believe this helped preserve political stability. Others point to culture. The sword remained a symbol of honor, status, and identity, even though the battlefield had already begun to change. Samurai continued practicing swordsmanship, not simply as combat, but as tradition, as discipline, as a way of life. The samurai didn't disappear after Nagashino. They survived for centuries, just in a very different world. The true end came in the 1800s. Japan reopened to the world. Western military technology had advanced dramatically. Modern rifles, powerful artillery, professional armies. During the Meiji Restoration, Japan modernized rapidly. The samurai class was abolished. Their final rebellions, most famously the Satsuma Rebellion, faced a modern national army. The outcome wasn't close. The era that began with swords facing a strange new weapon ended more than 3 centuries later with the sword finally replaced. It's tempting to think the samurai fell in one dramatic battle. The truth was slower, messier, more human. It took a shipwreck, a decade of rapid replication, decades of slow adoption, 2 centuries of cultural resistance, and finally, a political revolution. The gun didn't defeat the samurai in a single fight. It just made their entire world obsolete. And it took them 300 years to admit it.